Welcome to the Brand and Market Podcast, where branding clarity meets marketing strategy. I'm your host, Allie Haney, founder of Brand and Market, a boutique agency dedicated to helping small businesses craft intentional brands and effective marketing plans. Each week, I share practical tips and insights to help you, especially those of you in real estate-related industries, build a standout brand to attract your brand's biggest fans. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome back to the very first episode of 2026 of the Brand and Market Podcast. I'm excited to be here. This year is ushering in a lot of alignment and a lot of growth for Brand and Market, both on the service-based side with our branding and marketing services, but also on the short-term rental side as we continue to grow our portfolio. So we are right there in the trenches with you, launching an Airbnb as we speak, and just want to take you along on the journey with me. This year, the podcast is going to see a couple of different changes. In the past, I've alternated between individual episodes or solo episodes where you just get to hear me talk, and guest episodes where I have someone on who is somehow related to the space, usually a marketing expert in their own marketing channel, or potentially another short-term rental owner who has had experience in the space. So this year, instead, after doing some market research on what you guys prefer, you actually want to hear me talk more. So I am pivoting a little bit and going to be focusing a little bit more often on individual episodes. So each month, at the end of the month, we will have our one monthly guest. And then the rest of them, you just get to hear me spew about branding and marketing for short-term rental owners. And fun fact, co-hosting and real estate investment was also two things that you guys wanted to hear about. So I'll be incorporating some stuff with systems and operations as well as acquisitions this year as well. So it's going to be a fun year where we're really diving deep into the content and helpful things to grow your business and your portfolio. With that being said, I'm kind of taking last year into consideration as I continue to dive deep on the content that you guys want. And last year, my very first episode of the year was anti-trends for marketing in 2025. Everyone else was focusing at the beginning of the year on what you should be doing with your marketing in the year of 2025. So I focused on what you should not do with your marketing on the year of 2025. That one actually pretty much fell flat. So we're going to try something different this year. And instead of spewing at you everything that you should be doing or everything that you could be doing, I'm going to tell you what our plan is for our short-term rentals. And then if there are 1 to 2 things that you can adopt to add to your marketing strategy or your brand strategy for the upcoming year in your short-term rental, I would love for you to just steal that idea and implement it today in your business. With that being said, I do have a little bit more marketing knowledge than the average person, as I should. And so I do a lot of research, especially around the end of the year when all of the different marketing reports are coming out. And one of the ones that I just recently read through was published by Metricool. If you're not familiar with Metricool, it is a scheduling platform for social media. So you can schedule Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, Google My Business, TikTok, LinkedIn, all the things. You connect them all to one platform. And that way, if you want to cross-post certain content, you can do that. You can see what times of day that your audience is, the highest concentration of them is online so that you can post when they are most likely to see it. And of course, it gives you some analytics on the back end to see what piece of content performs better than the others. All that to say, that report gave me some very interesting information, and I'm going to quickly run down it so that it kind of informs a little bit more of why we're taking our strategy in the direction that we are. So like I said, this is a social media scheduling platform. So this specific report only had to do with social media. And the main thing that kind of, I won't say rubbed me the wrong way. That's not quite what I mean. It's like the one thing that I was like, oh, of course that's true, was that TikTok is the number one platform for organic growth. That means creating the content. Once you create it and you put it out into the world, you're being put in front of the most eyes if your content is on TikTok. And I say that I'm kind of bummed about that because I've literally never been a TikTok girly, not a single day in my life. I've watched a few TikToks, ones that were sent to me, and usually those are sent to me through a text message just to show you how archaic and like, I'm not anti-social media, but like how archaic in general I am or slow adopting I am. Still, to this day, I never had to freak out when they took TikTok down for a day. Like that was never a part of my marketing strategy anyway. I do think that there's no way around the fact that TikTok is here to stay and that it's a great way to grow. The other thing that I'm going to touch on this more in a second, but the other thing that stood out to me about that report was I'm on Instagram all the time. I like to say it's for work, but quite honestly, I get sucked into the mindless scrolling just like everybody else. So Instagram engagement, as we all know, as business owners, short-term rental owners, engagement is down. That's no surprise. We feel it in our everyday life. I literally just posted a story and 16 people saw it over 24 hours. And that's abysmally low. Throughout 2025, I made a major pivot in my business in terms of who I was serving. So I came from the wedding world where I worked with a lot of creative entrepreneurs with their branding and marketing and pivoted over to short-term rental owners because I knew that was our trajectory for our life. So during that time, I went from nearly 4,000 followers and I parsed them down to about 1,500 of my friends and family, as well as anyone that I've come across within the short-term world, and started rebuilding from there. So out of like 1,500 followers, which again is not a big following, but 16 views on a story to 1,500 followers, that ratio is shit. And so I was just being a little bit discouraged, but I guess to see the stats to know that indeed it is not just me, it is across the board, literally from a company that schedules billions of social media posts across all the platforms, that everyone is feeling that engagement drop. If Instagram is part of your marketing strategy and you want to double down on it, even if you're not getting the engagement that you want to get, apparently the best way to do that is through carousels. At one point, it was through Reels. It was through that short form video content. And that is still in second place as opposed to like a static post where it's just like an image or a graphic. But carousels are the top performing type of post by about 30%. If that's Instagram is like a staple in your marketing strategy and you don't want to abandon that channel because you have grown a following there, just maybe adjust your strategy on that specific channel to include more carousels as opposed to just doing the short form video content in Reels. Anyway, let me bounce back to TikTok. Sorry, you guys said you wanted to hear me talk, so you're going to have to go along with my ADHD stream of consciousness. If TikTok is not a platform that you want to be on, like me, I think that there's still a way to be able to use it, not necessarily to create content, but to leverage the communities that people on TikTok have already created there. What I mean by that is you can still utilize partnerships, affiliates, influencers on TikTok without you actually having to be on TikTok yourself. You can still use those influencers' audiences to be able to drive traffic to your website. Hopefully you have a direct booking site and you can use, I'm going to jump into a little bit more strategy in a second. I don't want to get ahead of myself. So if you want to utilize TikTok but don't want to actively create content for TikTok, I think that is one way around it, by still being able to contact the influencers that are on TikTok. So you might still have to have a TikTok account, but you don't have to create content for it. Get in touch with them, utilize their audience, leverage the trust that they have with their audience to then be able to drive traffic to your short-term rental. So I'm going to take a step back and talk about how we are going to be doing this, our influencer strategy for 2026. So I haven't built this out completely yet, but my goal for our rental that is in Southern Virginia is going to be targeting mom influencers in the surrounding cities of where our rental is. So our rental is within 2 hours of Greensboro, Winston-Salem, Charlotte, within 3 hours of Bristol, Tennessee, and Raleigh, North Carolina, and within 4 hours of Richmond, Virginia. So we have a lot of metropolitan areas, a lot of city, like high density areas, just inside the travel radius for like a weekend or week-long trip that we can pull from in order to get guests inside of our short-term rental. The strategy there is not only am I targeting influencers for those areas, but I'm targeting even smaller niche of mom influencers. And why is that? Because our rental was specifically designed with families in mind. We have the kids' room that has the double bunk beds as well as a Tony's box. If you are a screen-free family or almost screen-free family, you know what I'm talking about when I say it's a Tony's box. It's like basically a jukebox that you can put a character on top of, and that character then just tells the audiobook version of that story, like Elsa or Coco or whoever. That was one of the things that I knew that was a non-negotiable for our rental. We're going to have a fire pit that's very family friendly. Evokes the picture of doing s'mores out by the fire with your kids. There's creeks all throughout the property so they can explore the wildlife and the nature. There's going to be a stargazing dome with a telescope. So it's all going to be oriented toward, of course, we're going to have the other like kid amenities like pack and play, high chair, all the things like kids, cups and plates, those types of things to make traveling with your child as easy as possible. That's why I'm targeting that smaller niche of mom influencers within that radius. And that way I can get essentially the most eyes on the property that are going to be most likely to book it, if that makes sense. Now, the next thing that I want to touch on, because that outreach in and of itself is not enough for me, at least, to know whether there's a return on my investment, because I don't expect to be able to work with these mom influencers or mom bloggers for free, but I want to know what my ROI is when I go to utilize their or leverage their audience. As I bring on these influencers, I will be creating a discount code that is specific to them to allow them to offer that to their audience for X amount of dollars or X amount of percent off. But then when they book, the end guest books with their code, I can see how many reservations that came directly from that collaboration. I know that, some people they engage in the collaborations or the partnerships, but there's no solid trackable way to know that outside of like, oh, this is when that collaboration went live and I saw an uptick in bookings. That's great. But I would really love to know exactly what my ROI is. I spent $1,000 on this collaboration, but it was able to bring me $5,000 in bookings. Like, I want to know what that ratio is. And that will also inform future decisions of whether I want to do another collaboration with that influencer in the future. So that's going to be our main influencer strategy in 2026. I'm going to save the biggie, which is the direct booking site, for the end. So let me switch gears, take you offline and actually in person to local partnerships. One way that we are going to be leveraging local partnerships at our rentals is that we are going to see if we can create relationships with local businesses. I'm going to switch gears from the Virginia property back to the Kentucky property because that one's more established. We've been running that one for 3 years. It's on the Bourbon Trail. And one thing that I already do to be more hospitable, to leverage or level up rather our guest experience is, what's the number one reason that people are coming there? It's to tour the Bourbon Trail, to go to distilleries. And so when they are coming, they are looking for a tour bus or a distillery tour guide that's going to have the bus that takes them from spot to spot to spot to spot, right? So I already, in my welcome message, refer them to 2 that I know are reputable in the area. But as I was thinking of how to increase revenue overall, I was thinking, well, I already make this referral. Why would I not reach out to the company to see if they have an affiliate program for me to get paid for that referral? So that's one of the ways that we are going to try and increase revenue in 2026 is by establishing local partnerships where if we refer them to a specific restaurant, coffee shop, or to a distillery for certain tickets, to distillery tours, anything like that you already are giving them for free for just, value as a guest, see if there's a way that you can monetize that to be able to leverage that as an income stream, and vice versa, right? Like right now I'm talking about in terms of you as the Airbnb or short-term rental owner are the first point of contact. You're making a referral to another local business from which you can get some sort of affiliate income. Think of it in the other way too. What local businesses can refer them, the guest, to you before they book the Airbnb? One of the use case scenarios for this one that I see most often is wedding venues. So usually if someone's booking a venue for a wedding, they book out 12 to 18 months in advance. Okay, so that's pretty far, like a pretty wide booking window. People are probably not going to be booking Airbnbs 18 months in advance if you even allow that on your calendar. If when that bride goes to the tour, they receive a preferred vendors list, which is almost always the case, and your Airbnb is on there for, let's say, a bridal party, or maybe it's for the parents of the bride or groom, the extended family of the bride or groom, or even if it's you have a smaller rental and you can't accommodate a full bridal party, still, if you're on that list, the bride and groom can refer other guests to your Airbnb. And so I want you to think not only if you are the first point of contact as the rental, but also where else in your area, based off of the previous guests that you've hosted, might that guest encounter in your local area that could be a referral point for your rental. So that's going to be one of the things that we are utilizing, especially in Kentucky, as we continue to grow in the Bourbon Trail. Interrupting this episode to offer some additional value. If you're thinking about buying a short-term rental, whether it's your first one ever or the first time you're actually treating it like a real investment, I made something just for you. It's the short-term rental acquisition checklist. I made it in real time as we walked through the acquisition process of a new short-term rental that we purchased for ourselves. It's the exact framework I use when analyzing properties to add to our own portfolio. Think of it as your step-by-step guide to staying organized, running the numbers, navigating due diligence, and making confident decisions instead of second-guessing yourself all the way through the process. It's all through the lens of someone who knows the importance of branding and marketing. If you're ready to evaluate properties like an investor and set yourself up for success from day one, head to the show notes and download it for free. Let's turn your future listing into your legacy. Okay, back to the show. All right, next thing that I want to touch on, this is, I guess, less marketing strategy, but still looking to increase that top line revenue. And in a way, I guess it's marketing it because you are, just showing overall hospitality and showing how you are such a great host. But again, with that top line revenue, increasing that through other affiliate income once they are actually on your property. So what this would look like is someone walks into your property, they open the door for the first time, they go and find the room that they're going to be staying in. There's a nice little QR code right there and a beautifully designed and curated frame. They scan that QR code, and from there, that takes them to your Amazon storefront, your Minoan storefront, a Wayfair affiliate program, whatever it might be, that then brings together all of the items that are in that room that they can then purchase. So let's say they had the absolute best night's sleep on your incredible Casper mattress. They say, oh, I have to have this, which has happened in the past, actually. I know this sounds kind of far-fetched, but we have these conversations pretty often across our rentals of where did you get your mattresses, or where did you get your side tables, or where did you get your linens? They're so soft. Why would I not capitalize on that income? So a couple of ways that we are implementing this into our rentals. We are doing the QR code strategy, but that is linking to an LTK storefront. I'm still building this out, so please don't think that I'm an expert, but I'm happy to share my experience with the LTK platform. LTK is application only, so you have to apply in order to be on that platform. However, at one point, the application process was much more stringent. They didn't let everybody in. You had to have a certain amount of followers, a certain amount of engagement, but the application was very simple. It was a simple process. And with, like I said, 1,500 followers, since I parsed them down earlier this year, I was still approved for the LTK program. I had my LTK storefront set up room by room. So in Kentucky, we have 5 different bedrooms. Each of the bedrooms has a nameplate on it. The Kentucky room, Virginia room, Massachusetts room, Pennsylvania room, and Rick House room. And so I was able to design my LTK storefront to be like, okay, if I'm staying in the Rick House room and I like the nightstand, this is the nightstand for the Rick House room. And that way you can still monetize that affiliate income based off of something that you've already put the time and effort and potentially the investment into the professional interior design to then be able to make money off of that as well. So that is one way that we are adding additional revenue streams to our short-term rental in 2026. Next thing is HostCo store. This is something that we implemented in 2025. It was just within the last month or so, 6 weeks or so of 2025. So we're still testing it out since most of our rentals are in off season right now, but I'm excited to hit the ground running in 2026 with it. And that is the HostCo store. So this allows you to do some upcharges for a stay that are common guest requests already. So for example, say people are requesting an early check-in, but you don't have any system or process, or you have to manually send a payment request through Airbnb, every time someone requests an early check-in, or maybe you don't even send them the payment request for the early check-in and you just allow it. But that's leaving money on the table for your rental. So early check-in, late checkout, potentially a pet fee, especially because Airbnb is now taking 15.5% off of every single transaction, including a cleaning fee and including any pet fees that you charge. So keep that in mind, that HostCo is an alternative to that. Yes, a fee is still taken out, but it's far lower than the 15.5% that Airbnb is collecting. This could also be like if someone loses an item or leaves an item behind, you can have them directly check out through HostCo and leave you their address to be able to mail back the item, plus you make a profit on it. The other part of HostCo that I have not yet explored, but plan on exploring in the future, is the local vendor part. So this is that experiential hospitality in real life. So that could be hosting a local vendor for a massage, a couple's massage if you have like a smaller unit that you're renting out. It could be having a private chef come in and do dinner for people one night. It could be hiring a local dog sitter if you're pet friendly and they're bringing their dog, but they're going to be out all day. All of those different local vendors, whichever ones you have local to you, those will automatically populate when you put in the address of the rental on HostCo, and you would make a percentage. Granted, it's a pretty small percentage. You would make money off of that reservation, even though you're not having to do anything to coordinate that reservation for that massage therapist or that private chef. So want to keep that in mind, that that's another way that we are increasing our top line revenue for 2026. All right, now I'm going to bring it full circle back to marketing, and I'm going to jump into the big behemoth that I feel like is kind of on the periphery of every short-term rental owner's mind in terms of marketing. And that is the direct booking site. I would love to know, I wish I could outwardly poll right now live to see how many short-term rental owners have a direct booking site versus who are only on Airbnb or Airbnb and VRBO. Because with the shift in the fee structure that Airbnb has implemented this year, it really is impacting every host, but especially those that have PMS systems, and especially those that have PMS systems in seasonal markets. My reasoning behind saying this is, if you're unfamiliar with this, Airbnb has always charged 15.5% as a service fee on every reservation. That 15.5% used to be split between the guest and the host. The guest paid 12.5% of that service fee, and the host paid 3% of that service fee. As of, I think it was October 27th, Airbnb has shifted to put that entire fee on the host if that host uses a PMS or property management system. So if you use a Hospitable or HostAway or Lodgify, any of those that basically aggregate all of your messages into one spot that allow you to coordinate calendars from all of the OTAs. There's multiple reasons that you would use a PMS system, but those are probably the main two reasons. So this means if you plan on continuing to grow your portfolio and you need something that's going to streamline operations, i.e. a PMS system, then this is going to affect you. Now, we can see how this could affect people, especially those people who are in seasonal markets, who might be able to pull those annual guests that come every year off of an OTA like Airbnb or VRBO to then pull them to their direct booking site, right? I hear it a lot that people are like, I understand that I should have a direct booking site because I can save on fees. However, I don't know how to get people to the site to book direct. And I wouldn't say go blindly into getting a direct booking site if you have one short-term rental and maybe that's not your full plan. You don't plan on growing your portfolio. You don't have a PMS system at this point. If this is your only one, I don't think that is a direct booking site is the end all be all. Okay, I'm going to caveat this whole rant with that. However, if it is your trajectory that you want to continue to increase your short-term rental portfolio, or if it's your trajectory that you want to hire a co-host who most likely has a PMS system that they use, you should really consider having a direct booking site. Because even if you keep that Airbnb listing, which I suggest that you do, you can pull people, have them book on Airbnb the first time. Let Airbnb do some degree of marketing for you. Pull them from Airbnb the first time. And then once they're actually like in the rental, there are multiple ways that you can get their email address. I've seen some people do it through having them sign a rental agreement and then requiring them to put their email address into that rental agreement. You can do that before the guest even sets foot on the property. Once they are on the property, you can either use something like StayFi. StayFi is a software system that you can connect to your internet. So in order to access the Wi-Fi in the home, the guest has to put their email address in to access that. That's a way that you can use it. That's a paid service, but you can do it that way. Or you can have a QR code or link to your website that says enter in your email address for X amount of dollars off or X amount of percentage off for your next stay. Entice them to come back or entice them to pass that code along to any other friends and family that they might think would also enjoy that rental. I'm not saying just totally abandon Airbnb, but definitely make it a little bit more diverse in terms of your marketing strategy. The other thing that I want to mention, there's two more things that I want to mention actually about direct booking sites. And it goes back to you not knowing how to get people onto your website without having Airbnb as the middleman. There's been a big debate in the marketing space. Remember, I'm a little bit of a marketing nerd, between SEO and GEO. Let me do my best to break it down in a way that I could understand in layman's terms. So SEO is search engine optimization. That means that you are doing your best to be recognized by Google and other search engines so that you appear higher in results. This is done through keyword research and knowing what your target audience is going to be searching so that you can tailor what you have written on your website to target those keywords and thus be served up higher, more likely to be seen on page 1 of Google. GEO, on the other hand, is very new, and that is generative engine optimization. Sorry, I had to think about the meaning of the G. And that's showing up in ChatGPT results, AI results that are generating answers to questions. This is one of the strategies that I want to work on for our direct booking site for 2026. So they go hand in hand. You're still trying to put yourself in the shoes of the person that's going to be searching your website, but you have to kind of tweak what you say in order to show up in specific types of results. So just think about any type of Google search that you do right now. If I Google search Airbnbs in Kentucky, that would be my only search, Airbnbs in Kentucky. That would be my only Google search. Versus if I'm looking at ChatGPT and typing into ChatGPT what I'm looking for, I would give it more of a full scenario. I would say, hey, I'm a mom of 3. I am traveling with my mom, my dad, and my husband's parents. So we need a total of 9 heads and beds. Heads and beds is probably not what somebody not in this industry would say, but I would need places for 9 people to sleep. We're bringing our dog and we want to tour the Bourbon Trail. What are the top 5 Airbnbs from Louisville to Lexington that can serve our needs? Okay, so right there, that type of search is far different and informs what I can put on my website to be able to show up in that generative engine optimization result in the ChatGPT search. So I could create a blog about an itinerary to say, upon check-in, you and your family of 5 can have this specific suite that is tailored specifically towards children. Bring your puppy friend along and he can enjoy X. We are nestled right in the middle of the Bourbon Trail, which allows kids at these distilleries. Boom, 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 boom. So you're serving value, you're using all of the keywords, and you're increasing your likelihood of showing up in the results for the people that you actually want to book your space. Okay, so now that we talked about SEO and GEO, we're going to hit on our final point of email marketing. This is something that I have really been playing around with in 2025, and it's been a lot of fun to see the feedback and the results. If you are thinking about purchasing a short-term rental in 2026, and once you get under contract and you are like 95% certain that that bad boy is going to close, I want you to start a wait list before you even close. I want you to start a wait list before you're even live, because that will start to generate some interest, and that will eventually lead to your warm leads that will be willing to book from you right off the bat. So that was one of the strategies that we used for the Elysian/Luna property. So far, we have like double-digit leads that we can then market to once the actual listing is open. And one other thing that I've done is I've released some of like the design inspiration, the brand story, all this stuff, like the renovation updates. I release it to the email list first before I put it on social media, so they have an incentive to actually get on said email list. Once we have our direct booking site up and running, they will also, as a thank you for showing interest and being part of the story from the start, they will receive a discount code to book once we are open for business. The reason that I brought up email marketing for the direct booking site as well is that any type of direct booking site is able to have an opt-in or a pop-up that collects email addresses. In the past, I've seen people, like I said, do the percentage or dollar amount off. I've seen people enter for a free night stay or a free weekend stay. There are different ways that you can incentivize people to give you their email address. But I want you to start thinking that through as you are thinking through your direct booking site. What are some ways that I can put the effort in once, i.e. set up a pop-up that leads to a funnel that nurtures them, that I can set and mostly forget. I would never encourage you to forget it completely, any type of marketing strategy or channel, but you could set and forget for a time being, like go and check it every quarter or optimize it every quarter. And that way that can be working in the background while you're continuing to hone in on other marketing channels and strategies. Okay, I know that was a lot. One of the other pieces of feedback that you guys gave me was that you wanted like 20-minute episodes. I'm already at 34 minutes, so you're going to have to just listen to this bad boy at 1.5 times speed because I talk pretty slow anyway. So a couple of things that I want to point out that might be helpful for you, because really the end of the day, this podcast is here to serve you guys. So 2 things. If you are thinking about purchasing a short-term rental in 2026, I would love to offer you my free short-term rental acquisition checklist. As we were going through the purchase process for Luna, I wrote down pretty much every step that I could think of that we went through to put into this checklist so that I didn't have to reinvent the wheel next time we go to purchase a short-term rental. And this checklist goes everywhere, all the way from like pre-offer where we were doing market analysis through the under contract phase and due diligence phase, all the way to post-closing and what we had to do in order to like get it up and running and actually live on Airbnb. So if that's something that you can find value in, I would love for you to download it. It will be a link to it in the show notes. And then the second thing is, if all of this social media, affiliate income, local partnerships, influencers, direct bookings, if this has you like reeling in the worst way, please reach out. I offer free 30-minute consult calls that can help you get a lot of clarity on your marketing strategy. Like I've been in this for 6 years, so don't feel like all of these strategies that I'm doing right now you have to implement at this very moment. Pick 1 or 2 that you feel like are low-hanging fruit for you and implement those. Just take 1 step in the marketing strategy direction. And even if those 1 or 2 steps, they still feel a little bit daunting because you're worried about the operations of your short-term rental, bring me on. That's what I do. I do branding and marketing for short-term rental owners and hosts. So I would love to help you. And until next time, signing off here. Here's to being the best in your brand and your market. I'll talk to you next week. You just completed another episode of the Brand and Market Podcast. If you found this helpful, please rate, review, and subscribe to help others find this show and so that you never miss an episode. Don't forget to take a look at the show notes for all the resources mentioned today. See you next Wednesday, and as always, I'm here cheering you on as you build your dream brand and business.